Hi, welcome to the Investment Blueprint. I'm your host, Raghu Kumar from Rain Platforms. The Investment Blueprint is a podcast where I interview traders, investors, quants, and finance professionals in the space of retail trading and investing with the goal of helping pass on their knowledge to you. Today, I interviewed Derrick Oldensmith from T3 Trading, a senior trader and managing supervisor at T3 Trading Group. T3, for those of you who don't know, is a proprietary trading firm offering a variety of services, including brokerage, trading programs, education, and much more. It is a registered SEC broker-dealer and a member of FINRA. T3 strives to be a complete destination for traders looking to maximize their performance in today's financial markets. For his personal trading, Derrick combines day trading, swing trading, and portfolio management into his own unique top-down approach to the markets. He describes his trading style as a combination of technical analysis on multiple timeframes and tape reading with a background of qualitative fundamentals. A highly competitive person, in his spare time, Derrick is a two-time world champion kickboxer, and T3 is a regular sponsor of his events. Today, we talk about this kickboxing champion's unique trading story. So Derrick, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So, as I was kind of researching this episode, I came across an interview of yours where you kind of talked about, how you got introduced to the markets as a kid. You said you've always kind of been fascinated by the stock markets, and you took on some kind of, odd jobs at your dad's businesses, and eventually you bought shares of Nike and Jenko jeans. Tell me about that whole experience. How did you get introduced to the markets, and what was all that like?
Sure. So my fascination with markets really started back when I was a kid. Like you said, so when I was a kid, my dad owned a couple 7-Elevens out in Long Island, New York, where I grew up. And after school on weekends, both my parents worked, so I didn't necessarily always have somewhere to go. I would find myself at the businesses, and my dad would pay me small amounts of money to do odd jobs. He would say, here's $1, go pick up all the litter in the parking lot. Here's $1, go stack the milk in the freezer. And I would do it. And for whatever reason, as a kid, I loved to accumulate the paper. So I actually had a drawer in my house that was just full of, small bills. And eventually at a certain point, my mother saw it and she was like, well, we should really consider putting this into a savings account so you can earn interest. And that's when I was first introduced to the concept of interest. This was also back when you could actually get a real interest rate return on a savings account, not like nowadays where interest rates have been basically zero for so long. Right. And then that introduction to interest rates then led to an introduction into the stock market, where my mother also said, well, if you want, you could choose to buy a company and be an owner in a company. So I looked at Nike and I looked at Jenko jeans. I didn't buy Jenko jeans. I chose between the two, and I went with Nike, which luckily was a good decision, because I'm assuming that Jenko jeans eventually went bankrupt. I'm actually assuming that your younger viewers have no idea what we're even talking about. But Nike, everybody knows, it was a fantastic investment. And then I was just fascinated by the fact that I had to do these really dirty jobs to make the small amount of money, and now that money was just making money by itself. And I really wanted to learn more about it. So, eventually went to college and studied economics at NYU here in Manhattan, and really always wanted to be involved in markets and trading.
Got it. No, so I didn't know Jenko jeans at all. In fact, I was going to spell it as Jenko, or it's actually JNCO. I didn't know what it was at all, but Nike, obviously, everyone knows. And
I hope you Google imaged it.
I did Google image it. That's exactly what I did. So eventually you graduated from college, right? Like you said, and then you got into trading, and you got a job as a sales trader, right? This is back in 2008, I think, right? Can you describe that job for me? What did you learn? And eventually, how did you kind of move on from it?
Sure. So first of all, I graduated from NYU in 2008, right in the heart of the financial crisis. It was like the worst time ever if you wanted to get a job in trading or in finance at all. Here I was just graduating school, and NYU is a great university, but I was competing for entry-level jobs versus guys from Lehman Brothers who had 10, 20 years of experience and all of a sudden just needed to be able to get a job and were willing to do entry-level work just to start getting a salary again.
Yeah.
So it was a tough time. Fortunately, I had an internship with a company that was called Restricted Stock Partners. Eventually, they rebranded to Second Market. And based on how I performed in the internship, they gave me an offer to become a full-time junior sales trader / analyst at the company. So I took that job. To be honest with you, it was the only offer that I had, considering the times. But it was broadly what I wanted to do anyway. I wanted to be involved in trading in markets. I already had relationships at this company. So I got involved.
Sure.
I focused on a couple of different products with them over the couple of years that I was there, but I was involved with bankruptcy trade claims specifically for Lehman Brothers as they went under. I did a little bit with Bernie Madoff when that whole thing kind of fell apart. I also worked in their pipe public equity space, restricted stock space that they had. And I was basically a sales trader. So I was on the phone all the time with institutions trying to get them to match on price for different securities that were fairly illiquid, a lot of times illiquid as a result of the financial crisis. And it was a good gig for me. I learned a lot, but it's really not what I wanted to do. I didn't care what the motivation of the buyer was to buy or what the motivation of the seller was to sell. That wasn't my job function.
Sure.
My job function was to get these two parties to match on this price and get it done.
Yeah.
And that left me a little bit unfulfilled. I wanted to know more, why is this really intelligent institutional investor willing to take such a huge haircut on this sale? But this other really intelligent institutional investor views this as an opportunity to come in and buy something as a huge discount. Like, what's creating this dislocation in the thought process?
Sure.
So, long story short, I left that company and I joined T3 in 2010. Got involved in proprietary trading specifically because I wanted to be the decision maker, the risk manager, and doing my own research.
Sure. So we'll talk about T3 in a little bit, but I kind of want to talk about that whole time period, right? 2008, because I remember 2008. It's also when I started thinking about moving to India because we actually shut down our prop desk in the US because of the financial crisis, right? So when you were kind of looking for a job and you saw that all this was happening, right? Did that kind of lead you to kind of, think twice about that decision, or did it kind of make you double down on the whole thing?
Trading is what I always wanted to do. It was just a matter of navigating through the hard times and finding myself in the right spot that was going to be right for me. There was no doubt in my mind that I wanted to be involved in trading in markets. And, even as a sales trader, I was spending probably more time than I should, to be honest with you, trying to learn about how markets and trading itself actually functions.
Got it. So then you eventually went to T3, right? And you joined their prop trading desk. Was that a big transition for you? And how did you kind of decide upon, joining T3?
Sure. So it was a big transition for me. I had searched around a little bit, looking at, different industries. Where do I want to go next with my career? Learning a little bit about proprietary trading. I looked at a couple companies in the space. I had a reference to T3 through a person that I taught martial arts to, who long story short, smoked cigars with a trader at T3, and he introduced me to the trader at T3 because I knew that he knew I was interested in the space. Yeah, and it was really through that connection that I came in and I interviewed and got the job.
And you got the job. So, what was like a typical day like for you when you were a part of the prop trading desk?
Sure. So I still am part of the prop trading desk.
Okay.
I run it now, but
okay.
My day-to-day is definitely transitioned over the years.
Yeah.
When I was an entry-level trader at T3, the first thing that I realized was, despite the fact that I had a couple years of sales trading experience, despite the fact that I had done investing on my own and I had tried to learn on my own, I realized really quickly I knew nothing. So almost it was a whole new world. Yeah. So almost, I didn't know anything about technical analysis. I didn't know anything about charting. Almost everything that I've learned at T3 over the decade plus that I've been here. But I was smart enough to be humble enough to recognize that I didn't know anything and that I needed to learn. And the one thing I knew was, at the end of the day, is this is a numbers game. And to this day, I tell my traders all the time, making money in markets is as simple as making more money than you lose, or as difficult as making more money than you lose. Right. So that was the only thing I really knew as a new trader. So I said to myself, I have to make rules for money management and risk management. If all I need to be able to do is figure out how these numbers work in such a way where I can make more money on good days than I lose in bad days, then what type of rules should I have? So I gave myself, daily stop losses, daily limit downs. I gave myself specific risk parameters for every trade that I was going to take. And even though I did not know a ton about technical analysis or honestly anything about execution, nothing that I know now, I was able to make small amounts of money, really humble amounts of money, but with okay consistency, more or less right away when I got started with T3, by following those risk management rules with the utmost discipline while I was going through that learning process.
Sure. What are some of those kind of very basic risk management rules, right? If you had to kind of lay out like just a couple, basic things you learned over those 2 years before you started up your own desk, your own trading desk, what were some of those kind of like major eureka moments that you kind of came across?
Sure. So first of all, like I said, you got to be able to make more money on your good days than you're able to lose on your bad days. That requires you to have a downside stop loss on your trading. When I was brand new at T3, I think it was like $250. It was like something super small. But I'll tell you, I never went past that downside number ever. I didn't care what the market was doing. I didn't care what I thought, what opportunity I thought I saw. And I tell this to my traders now all the time. Following your money management rules is more important than taking the next trade. Sure. If your money management rules tell you you cannot take the next trade, then you cannot take the next trade. And the beautiful thing about the markets are an opportunity creating mechanism. So I don't need to be in every single trade, every single opportunity today. If my rules say don't trade anymore, then I got to be able to take that step back and not do it. Tomorrow's going to be a new day with new opportunity where I see the market better. Otherwise, I'm going to dig myself into a deeper hole. So all I wanted to do was make sure I never violated that downside limit while trying to be positive every single day.
Got it.
If my downside limit was $250, ideally I want to make $500 or $1,000 in a day. That's a good multiple. But really what I wanted was consistency. Right. So when I was new, I didn't care if the number was positive $1, $100, or $1,000. I just wanted that number to be green at the end of the day, every day, because I knew that if I could learn to make money consistently 4 to 5 days a week, something like that, if it's $100 4 to 5 days a week, it can be $1,000 4 to 5 days a week. It's just about doing the same things with bigger numbers and then having the psychological capacity to handle those numbers.
To handle it, right? Exactly. Makes a lot of sense. So then in 2013, your responsibility shifted again, right? You basically started your own trading desk at T3, right? How did that happen? And how did your responsibilities change?
Sure. So my own trading was growing over time, and eventually the managers that I was working under, they said, "Hey, Derrick, you're doing well. It seems like you kind of have a knack for teaching a little bit. What if we just gave you a couple traders to mentor?" This is before I got the opportunity to start my own trading desk. They gave me 2 or 3 traders, a small amount that were part of their group, and said, "Hey, can you sit down with these guys after the market closes and act as a mentor to them, help them with their trading, help them with their execution, help them do more of the things that you're doing?" And I said, "Sure, no problem. I'm happy to help." Yeah. So it was that experience of starting to mentor a few traders that eventually blossomed into, "Hey, we have this opportunity here for you where you can start your own trading desk. You'll be able to be compensated based on the success of traders that you bring into the company. You're also going to be responsible, though, for everything yourself. You're going to have to do the recruiting yourself. You're going to be responsible for mentorship and education yourself. You're still going to have to do your own trading yourself. So it's going to be a whole lot of extra responsibility, but we think that you're going to be able to handle this, and we're going to give you this opportunity."
Got it. So how do you recruit traders to your trading desk? Like what's the whole process like?
Sure. So when I first started the trading desk, it was primarily entry-level people that I was working with. So I was hiring people directly out of college. Fast forward 8 years of me managing traders, and now it's much more expansive than that. I've got guys on my team who are former hedge fund managers, floor traders, pit traders, people with decades of experience. But when I first started the desk, I was posting job recruitment ads on university websites, top tier university websites, and primarily bringing in entry-level traders into T3 onto my desk. And then I was creating a training and development program and really trying to create structure to teach these entry-level traders to be as successful as possible.
Got it. So you've interacted with probably thousands of traders over the years, right? You're managing 100 traders right now. What are some of the kind of major pitfalls that some of these traders make, right, when they start trading and they join T3? What are some of the common traits that you see amongst those traders?
Sure. So this goes back to, luckily, one of the things that I was able to recognize pretty early on in my trading career, which is the importance of money management and risk management. Mm-hmm. The number one reason, without a doubt, the number one reason why traders do not succeed in this business is a failure to manage risk and manage money properly. And I've seen people who are excellent traders, they've got phenomenal trading skill, actually not succeed in this business because they have no discipline with money management.
Right.
And I've also seen mediocre traders become successful and be consistently profitable and improve on their trading skills over time because they were able to be disciplined with money management. Sure. So that's the number one thing. And it's also one of the hardest things to teach. Yeah. It's very hard to teach someone to be a disciplined individual.
Right.
It's almost something that you kind of had to be raised with or brought up with a little bit, or take enough punishment from the market to recognize that that's really going to be the key to kind of being successful.
Sure. So how do you cultivate that though? I'm sure there are certain ways that you can cultivate discipline in the markets, right? What are some, apart from extreme trial and error, right? What are some general ways that a complete, newcomer can cultivate that discipline?
Sure. So trading's not an easy business. There's a really large learning curve to this business. And one of the best ways that I think traders can work on themselves is by keeping really good journals and really good statistics on their own trading. One of several factors that I would attribute my success to is that right from the very beginning of my trading career, right from day one at T3, when I was still in a simulator account, I started keeping really heavy journals about my trading. And it wasn't just execution related. It was also journaling about myself, my emotions, my mistakes. How do I feel in certain moments? Because I could sit down with you and I could review your trades and I could say, hey, this looks like a good buy. This looks like a good sale. What I can't tell you because I'm not in your head is, you know what? You didn't take as much risk on this trade as you should have because you were feeling fear of risk at the time that you were entering this position. Or you know what? You didn't follow your game plan properly because when this trade was working out, you got overwhelmed by this sense of greed, thought you're going to make $1 billion in this trade, and then didn't follow the game plan, didn't book profit responsibly. I can't tell you some of those things because I'm not in your head.
In my head,
you really have to listen to yourself, manage yourself, and understand yourself. One of the best ways to do that is through keeping journals and statistics on a day-to-day basis.
Sure. Yeah. It's just some, an amazing takeaway there. So now let's talk about your actual trading style, right? Because you do kind of walk, people through your trades every day in a live session. So you've described your trading style as a combination of technical analysis on multiple timeframes and tape reading with a background of qualitative fundamentals, right? Can you expound upon that, right? Like how exactly do you use TA, technical analysis? What timeframes are you looking at? And how do you actually use tape reading, as a part of your trading strategy?
Sure. So I would say broadly, 85% of what I do is really on the technical analysis side, and I would include tape reading in the technical analysis side. And then 15% of what I do is more on that qualitative fundamental side of things. Mm-hmm. So I'm not doing heavy, deep fundamental analysis. I'm not sitting here doing discounted cash flow analysis on companies or anything like that. When I say qualitative fundamentals, I want to know the story. I want to know the macro picture of the market as a whole. That's hugely important to me because any trade that I'm getting in, whether it's a day trade or a swing trade in an individual company, is going to be influenced by how the S&P and the NASDAQ are doing. But I also want to know these macro qualitative fundamental factors on individual companies. And that can help me develop a thesis. I think that this company should move higher or lower over time for the following reasons. Mm-hmm. Now, that's great that I think that, but I'm not just going to close my eyes and, press my buy button because I think that. This is where the technicals come into play. The technicals are what's going to provide confirmation that the fundamental thesis is correct. The technicals are going to help me with entry, timing, risk management, and game plan management for when and if that trade actually works out. So as far as technical analysis goes, I'm big picture down to small picture. So again, first of all, always starting with the market. I start with a day-to-day analysis for myself and for my team of the big picture of the S&P, the NASDAQ, and the Russell. Are we in a bull market, a neutral market, a bear market? Are we extended to the downside? Are we extended to the upside? How am I best positioning myself in a thought process from the perspective of the market? Because then that is going to influence every individual trade that I take.
Sure.
Then I go into my research on individual stocks. So every morning I review just about every stock that had news. I review the companies that had earnings, that got upgraded, that got downgraded, that had individual stock news. I also have a universe of maybe 50 companies or so that I go back to very regularly. So I'm constantly eyeballing the day-to-day updates on their daily charts. Again, starting with daily charts. I get all my cues trading wise from the daily chart, and then I try to execute them on the smaller timeframes. So one of the things that I like to do, everyone loves to talk about risk reward ratios.
Right.
I want to make, 3 times my risk, 5 times my risk, 10 times my risk, whatever.
Yeah.
One of the things that I like to do is I look for daily chart reward based on intraday risk.
Okay.
Now, whatever risk reward ratio you're looking for, if you're looking at timeframes like that, it's naturally going to give you a really good risk reward. So I am looking at this. Let's make it a simple example. I'm looking at this daily chart breakout. There's this big resistance level on a daily chart for this stock. Maybe it caught a nice upgrade this morning. And I'm thinking to myself, as a momentum trade, if it breaks through the resistance level, I'll take that as a discretionary trade. Obviously, I want to pay attention to, what the market is doing and everything else. But I'm actually going to be executing that on a 5-minute or a 15-minute chart. And I'm looking to have risk that's based on a 5 or 15-minute chart. So now I'm entering this trade with 5 15-minute risk. If this thing breaks out, gives me a beautiful intraday trend, closes really well, that might become a swing trade for me. And now maybe this thing works its way up 10, 20, 50% or more. I mean, this market's been so crazy these last 2 years. Right. It's been realistic with some of these growth companies to sometimes make 200, 400% in positions in small periods of time.
Sure.
I can catch huge now daily chart reward starting with these small time frame risks. So it's the small time frame where I'm executing, and then that's where I also go to my tape. To be honest with you, tape reading has become a lesser part of my trading as time has gone by. Yeah. When I was new, the tape was a much bigger factor. There were like little tricks you could learn in the tape to almost make money for yourself purely based on tape. A lot of that, the market's become more efficient, and a lot of that has kind of evolved away. Yeah. But the tape reading will still help me with the specifics of my entry execution. And it also, the ability to read tape is still good in certain scenarios. If I'm trading earnings after hours, a lot of that's tape reading. If I'm trading an IPO, there is no chart. That's going to be all tape reading. If I'm trading a news event, that's going to be tape reading. But for the most part, it's become less about the tape reading. It still helps me with execution, and a lot more about the pure technicals. Got
it. Yeah, it's amazing. So now let's talk about your kickboxing, right? So you've been obviously probably kickboxing for a long time, and you are a 2-time kickboxing champion, right? How do you think your kickboxing has positively kind of affected your trading career?
Sure. So I guess for some background, I started in martial arts when I was 5 years old. Okay. I started teaching martial arts when I was about 15 years old. So I've been teaching martial arts for 20 plus years now. Wow. And I actually think that one of the reasons why I do a good job of teaching trading is because I have 20 plus years of martial arts teaching experience. Right. So back when I was in college, I was a sparring partner for this guy, Chris Algieri, who became a 2-time world champion kickboxer. Then he became a world champion boxer, fought Manny Pacquiao, has done really well for himself. I was a sparring partner. He was kicking my butt all across the gym. Okay. And I turned around to my coach and I was like, hey, I think I might as well try like an amateur fight, see how I do, get my butt kicked sparring, but this guy's a professional. I'd like to see how I can do in an amateur level event. So next thing I knew, I went, I think 13-0 as an amateur fighter. I was wiping everybody out because I was sparring a guy that was a world champion professional and then turn around and fighting amateurs. And then that led to me turning professional in kickboxing in 2009. So I actually retired from competition a little bit just before COVID. So I had a 10-year professional fighting career. I think I had about 40 fights or so. I won the vast majority of them. I ended up winning 2 world titles of what people from around the world. It was a really good experience, 12-round kickboxing matches. And first of all, it was really hectic because I spent a lot of my professional trading career being a professional fighter at the same time. Right. Almost everyone you're fighting is a professional fighter. That's all they do. They're in the gym all day. And literally all I did for years was martial arts trading. That was it.
Say basic 2 full-time jobs, right? I mean,
no social life really, not really doing anything else except for those 2 things. But I worked very hard. I was very disciplined at it. I approached the sport as scientifically as I possibly could. I recognized, hey, I'm in front of the computer screen for 10, 12 hours a day. I still got to get these workouts in. How can I maximize my time scientifically to be able to excel? And honestly, one of the things I love about martial arts, boxing, kickboxing, is it's like a really fast chess game. People who don't know the sport, they turn on a UFC match and they're like, this is brutal cockfighting. And yeah, you know what? It can be a little bit brutal, but what you don't see at the high levels of martial arts and fighting is it's not always the guy who's the biggest, strongest, fastest that wins. I don't even consider myself to be a natural athlete, but I approached the sport with a strategic mindset, just like how I approach trading with a strategic mindset. We have this term in boxing called ring generalship. Well, that's a very commonly quoted book in finance circles is The Art of War.
Exactly.
The Art of War is about the battlefield.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Sun Tzu. Yeah. So for me, the discipline aspect of it, putting that all together, I think that it actually really helped my trading career. And I don't know if I'd be able to be here today talking to you if I didn't have that big background in martial arts.
And do you think your trading career has also affected your kickboxing career positively in any way?
I think so. I was able to take so I had never journaled in my fighting career until I started trading. And then I said to myself, hey, I'm doing this for my trading. I should probably be doing this for my fighting also. Right. And I would start keeping detailed journals about my sparring matches, my fights.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You go back and you review your trading journal from yesterday, right before today's trading session, you're going to be less likely to repeat mistakes and more likely to do things well. Well, it's the exact same thing. I'm about to enter a new sparring match, about to enter a new fight. Let me reread the things I know I need to work on from last time and make sure I don't repeat those mistakes.
Yeah, sure. And what I love about your story is that you have found an amazing way to kind of interweave both those disciplines, right? It's not like you are saying, I need to just do this or I need to do that. You have found a way to complement both those disciplines where they actually complement each other. I think that's really cool and very unique. Let's talk about, the fact that you have dealt with so many, entry-level traders over the years, right? And I alluded to the fact that you currently, manage a group of more than 100 traders at T3. What are some of the most important qualities for a trader to have in order to kind of be successful in the long run?
Sure. So we already spoke about discipline, but discipline is still first and foremost to me. Discipline with money management rules, risk management rules, and also trading rules. If I would give a second one to that, it would be work ethic. For better or for worse, I think maybe a lot of retail traders are getting a reality check these last 6 months because the market has gotten a lot more difficult the last 6 months. I've traded a lot of different market environments over the course of the last 10, 12 years, whatever it's been now. I've seen easy market environments. I've seen difficult market environments. And I know that cycle is not going anywhere. I'm going to see easy environments again. I'm going to see difficult environments again. Yeah. A lot of people got involved in trading for the first time because of lockdown and everything else. And honestly, it was pretty easy in 2020, in the beginning of 2021. You just kind of bought some of these meme names or whatever it was, and boom, next thing you know, you've made a lot of money. And now I'm getting calls from people saying, hey, Derrick, I got involved in trading. I've heard these stories all the time. I took my account from my Robinhood account from $5,000 to $200,000 trading options, and now it's all gone. And I realized I don't really know a whole lot, but I fell in love with markets and trading, and I want to learn to do this professionally. What can T3 do for me? So those are the calls I'm getting now that the market's gotten a little bit more difficult, and people are realizing if you've never traded before, you're not just going to be able to walk in and spend an hour doing this a day and become this super successful millionaire trader unless you somehow get like extremely lucky with a certain situation. And then even if you do get extremely lucky, honestly, there's a good chance that you're going to end up giving those profits back if you haven't developed the rules and everything else. That's exactly what we're seeing right now.
Sure.
So you have to approach this business with an understanding that you're going to work hard at it.
Yeah.
When I was a brand new trader at T3, I was the first person to walk in the door and I was the last person to leave every day. I was spending 12 hours in the office, and this is then I got to go do the workouts for the fighting and everything else. I was spending 12 hours in the office every day. I didn't even know how to research. So I would sit there and I would have a notebook and I would just write out everything I possibly could. Oh, there's an economic number today. Is this economic number important? Having to learn every aspect. Now I can do that same research process in honestly 20, 30 minutes.
Sure.
It takes me a lot more time because I'm working with my team and they kind of need my support and I'm running the meetings. But the same thing that would take me 3+ hours as a new trader because I didn't even understand what I was reading.
Sure.
Now I can do super fast. So don't expect that you can just walk in and necessarily listen to what somebody on YouTube said or on Reddit said and buy a stock and become a millionaire without working at it. And as a matter of fact, the statistics show, and I'm always upfront and honest about this, that the statistics show that for the average person, you're going to underperform day trading. For the average person, if you have a full-time job, you're probably better off just dollar cost averaging into the market and companies that you believe in and not trying to be an active trader at all.
Yeah.
If you're going to be an active trader, you've really got to
go all out,
grow yourself into this and be all about it. And this is got to be what you want to do. And then you can have a career that's potentially successful and that you love.
Sure.
So those would be the biggest things that I tell newer people who are interested in this business.
Yeah, no, the major takeaway I take from that is the fact that you did whatever it took to succeed, right? The fact that you said you came to the office first every day and you were the last one to leave, and all those small things like that, those habits probably, cultivate over time. And eventually, that's how, you got to where you are today. Let's talk about the fact that you are the host of the T3 Pro Desk, virtual trading floor. Can you describe what that is and how does it benefit someone to attend it live?
Sure. So, to take a half step back, we have two separate but affiliated companies here at T3. We have T3 Trading Group, which is the FINRA registered broker dealer. That's where our proprietary trading accounts and retail trading accounts are housed. And we have T3 Live, which is more of an education and media company. I work for both.
Okay.
So I work for both. Primarily T3 Trading Group has always been my focus. My trading desk has been T3 Trading Group. My professional traders are T3 Trading Group. And I created a virtual trading floor through T3 Live that was initially meant to be really more of like an internal product. I didn't want to market this out to retail type folks or anything like that. I wanted to be able to expand my T3 Trading Group operation to be able to have more remote traders. So people did not necessarily have to come to our Manhattan trading floor, which is where I'm sitting today, to participate with our group. And then eventually over time, obviously COVID hit, right? So now all of our traders went remote when COVID hit. And over time, I've started to experiment slowly with, what if we open this up to a little bit more of a broader audience? Okay. I initially had a really big concern. I didn't want retail individuals having access to my stuff to dilute the professionalism of what we were doing.
Sure. I'm
a professional trader who is focused on working with professional traders. I don't want to bring in people who are not going to have the appropriate dedication, who are just going to come in and expect me to have a call out that's going to make them $1 million the next day.
Yeah.
Here's the truth of the matter. I'm not a perfect trader.
Right.
Obviously I've done well enough to be able to sit here and talk to you today. I'm wrong all the time.
Yeah.
I still make mistakes all the time. I'm still learning and improving all the time. So I was very worried about kind of diluting things by going on to YouTube and doing more of the stuff that I'm doing now. But the experiment has proved great. The retail people who have joined my ProDesk virtual trading floor through T3 Live, they understand that they are joining a professional community. And I'll tell you what, if you join and you're not going to act as a professional, whether you're a professional or not, you got to act as a professional. If you're not, you're out.
Sure.
I don't care if you're spending money. I don't want your money if you're not going to be a professional person.
Right.
And it's gone really well. And now we're doing this Derrick the Trader YouTube, which, I'm getting all these mini lessons on YouTube. So you got to check that out if you haven't.
For sure. Yeah.
Coming into
we will include all that information in the show notes, right? So we know your YouTube channel will be included as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going well, and we're really opening it up. And I'm managing over 100 professional traders, but now I've got all these retail individuals that are getting involved as well, and things are really expanding.
It's amazing, man. It's just really, really cool. And the last question I have for you today, Derrick, this is what I ask all my guests, right, on my podcast is, what are your goals for the next 5-10 years?
Sure. So I love trading.
Yeah.
I don't really have plans to leave T3 or go anywhere else. I've had a great experience at T3. I'm very loyal to the company here. The biggest thing I'm working is just further expansion of my own traders and further expansion of the success of the people that I'm working with and further growing that group. It started, I'm not really allowed to talk about, my tier sizes or anything, but I can talk kind of broadly, very broadly. When I was a new trader, it was hundreds of dollars. Right. And I remember the first time I lost $700 in one trade. And oh my God, I wanted to crawl under my desk and cry. It was so much money to me. Right. The jobs that I did in the past to make, $10 an hour or whatever it was, I lost like $700 in 5 minutes. It was like, oh my God. And now I'm flat, at that. If my P&L's, up $1,000, down $1,000, I'm flat. My P&L went from swinging hundreds of dollars a day to swinging tens of thousands of dollars a day. Eventually, I want to be good enough where I can appropriately develop that into being hundreds of thousands of dollars a day as the group of traders I'm working with expands and hopefully becomes more successful, more profitable. We get better people on the team. Like I said, it started with more entry-level folks. Now I've got all these different people with all these different backgrounds, guys with decades of trading experience, people adding value. Right now, the market's open. I've only placed 1 or 2 trades during the course of this podcast. But I can't talk about the details on those. But I don't have to worry. I'm not worried about the virtual trading floor right now because I know I've got these experienced guys who know what they're doing, and they can manage that while I'm not, following along with it in the same way. So that's all I want to do over the course of the next 5 years is expand. And for me, the experience of COVID and being out of New York for a year and a half was also very life-changing to me. And I mentioned to you briefly before our podcast started that when COVID hit, we shut down the office. My wife and I, we drove to California and back, living in Airbnbs in different places throughout the country 2 months at a time. It was an amazing experience. Sure. I love New York. I now have my eyes opened that I can do this from anywhere. So I want to spend more time in Wyoming and Idaho. I'm a big skier, and California and all these great places that America has to offer, while still spending, 4 to 6 months of the year in New York, coming to our trading floor and doing that because I love New York as well. So that's what I'm trying to do. Further improve my quality of life, further improve trading success.
Sure. And I think that's the right approach you have to take, right? You have to find a way to kind of intermingle all those different areas of your life. I'm a big believer that trading is more of an art than a science, in the sense that you have to approach the market scientifically, but the markets are always changing and evolving. And so you need to also be evolving and changing, right? You need to kind of make sure your mind is sharp. So obviously you've got that down pat with your kickboxing, and the fact that you guys like to travel and everything, and the fact that you're taking COVID in a positive stride, I think is really cool. So thank you so much, Derrick. That was an amazing interview. I learned a
Thank you for having
lot.
me.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot about T3 over the years, but I've never actually had the opportunity to kind of learn firsthand about the company. So thank you so much, and I'm sure our guests are going to love it.
I appreciate your time. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.